today's talk, you'll learn about how negative people can be a threat to your well-being, but more so about the even bigger danger that is your own negative thinking. Find out how negative thinking affects your brain, your mind, your relationships, your career, your health, and the overall quality of your life in today's talk. Keep listening to learn more. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Growth Philosophy Podcast, a bite-sized weekly podcast focused on empowering you to think better and upgrade your life. So let's talk about negative people and negative thinking. Have you ever been around people who are very negative nearly all the time? You know the type of people I'm talking about. The people who seem to be allergic to positivity and the good things in life. The people for whom there just never seems to be any light at the end of the proverbial tunnel. The people who always live in fear and expect the worst and find it challenging to be happy. We all have met and maybe even have had very close people like that. And the truth is that it can be hard to be around such people. It's normal to want to avoid people who are negative more often than not. After all, no one enjoys negativity. It can be draining and depressing even to hang around people like that. Life can get challenging, which is normal, but having people like that around you tends to make life even more hard. But just as being around negative people can be draining and depressing, so it can be to hang around negative thoughts. And unlike the negative people in your life, it is more challenging to separate yourself from your own negative thoughts. And that's one of the biggest reasons why it is important to continually work on yourself, especially in terms of being positive, because negativity has all sorts of negative impacts on and in your life. For one, negativity damages your ability to communicate well. If you get caught in a spiral of negative thoughts, it becomes hard to communicate clearly or even well, since your mind will be looping an one-track narrative about the bad things. If you're in a state like that, effective communication becomes extremely hard. That spiral of negative thoughts can negatively impact pretty much every relationship in your life, be it at work or at home. Communication is the foundation of human relationships, and when it becomes hard to communicate well, it becomes hard to maintain good relationships. And that, in turn, takes a toll on your whole life. So that makes this one of the most dangerous side effects of negative thinking. There's more though. Negative thinking has a direct impact on our brains and even on our health. Direct impact. Every time you have a negative thought, your brain releases stress hormones like cortisol, epinephrine, and noradrenaline. These hormones make you anxious and fearful, and they can cause irritation and frustration. The result of this chain reaction is not a good one for you, as you can imagine. The thing is, your negativity isn't good for even the people around you, since negativity can make it harder for you to trust others and work together, and can even cause you to lump your frustrations on them, and that is a terrible thing. But even if you don't lash out or get frustrated with people, and even if you keep all your negative feelings and thoughts inside you, the negative energy can still affect others. So even if you stay completely quiet about it, it can still impact others. If you have ever been around people who are really anxious or depressed, you know what I'm talking about, because you can feel that negative energy and it is not a good feeling. Probably one of the most dangerous things about negative thinking is that it can cause long-term damage. You remember how negative thoughts trigger your brain to release stress hormones? Well, it turns out that stress hormones damage our cognitive functions and our memory. And the more negative thoughts someone experiences, the more stress hormones are released and the more memory and neurological damage they end up with. Research has shown that stress resulting from negative thinking can literally impact your brain, and not in a good way. And the more negative thoughts there are, the more damage to the brain there is. So negativity damages your brain. Have you ever noticed how it becomes hard for you to think clearly when you become stressed? That's very likely a result of this phenomenon. And we have all heard how stress impacts our health. So that's yet another negative way negative thinking impacts our lives and our health. I can think of even one scenario where negativity is a good thing. Negativity is a blessing, but only in a reality where you are happy with things being bad. Yes, I am being sarcastic here. There are people like that, though. And that's the surprisingly, astonishingly unfortunate situation that we live in. There are people like that, people who enjoy things being bad, and people not just enjoy but even thrive in negativity. There are people like that. You might even have had the misfortune of knowing people like that. Toxic people are a prime example of this. Anyway, the point is that some people do cherish and even enjoy negativity, whether knowingly or unknowingly, and that really is the best option, as you learned already. Life often is a self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts. When you expect the best, usually best is what you get. Whereas when you expect the worst, things do have a tendency to turn out for the worst. Have you ever noticed how you keep dreading something and that's exactly what happens? Well, this is why. There is a famous epigram called Murphy's Law. You might have heard about it. And that states that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Now, I've heard people use that as logic for thinking negatively. They actually use that as a logic for thinking of only the bad scenarios. However, using that as a rationale for expecting the worst will only create more negative results, because you will be creating your self-fulfilling negative prophecy by doing that. And the only way to break out of that cycle is to disrupt it and focus more on the good things. I have a few simple rules in life that I try to live by, one of which is to expect the best and prepare for the worst. Borrow it and put it to use in your own life, because that way you can be hopeful realist and get the best of both positivity and being realistic. If you want to learn more about that, check out my last talk. As for negativity, it's normal to get negative thoughts once in a while. The important thing is to make sure that they don't stay in your psyche for long. And even more importantly, they should not become a permanent fixture in your mind. Because if they do, that's when they really start taking a toll on your life. Life gets harder, more challenging, and even more unpleasant when you have more negative thoughts than positive thoughts. I mean, it's not as if life is a cakewalk, but it gets even harder when negative thoughts become the predominant type of thinking that you have. When your negative thoughts outweigh your positive ones, the quality of your life degrades. It gets worse the longer that pattern continues. And the more time you spend being negative, the harder it becomes for you to experience the good things like joy and happiness. Negative thinking impairs our ability to think clearly and make good decisions. They cause stress and anxiety. They make it harder to communicate well, and they also make it harder for us to be happy. Negativity is like a black hole that expands the more time and energy you give it. And it sucks in the good things in your life and makes them disappear. It's like the good things aren't even there. If you get caught up in a spiral of negativity, it gets hard to see the good things in your life. Even though the truth is that we have more good things in life than bad ones. That's actually the surprising irony. And that alone makes it important to focus more on positivity and is also why positive people get better results than those who are predominantly negative. An easy way to limit the damage negative thinking can have is to simply limit the amount of time and energy you give it. The less time and energy you spend on negative thoughts, the better off you will be. Don't let yourself become one of those negative people you avoid. Stay alert about the negative thoughts that might try to sneak into your mind, and focus on the good things in your life. Never forget that you are more fortunate than most people, and the best way to make the best of life is to focus on good things and not fall for the trap that fear-based negative thinking set for you. Life is good, but only if you let it, and only if you don't let yourself get caught up in negativity. Spend more time and energy on positive thoughts and the good things in your life, because that's one of the easiest and most effective ways to improve the overall quality of your life. If you want to learn more about the how, tune into the next talk. But that's it for today. Positivity, it goes without saying, is infinitely better for you than negativity. However, negativity can be hard to resist at times, and that is why it becomes important for you to keep working at it and to actively install a more positive mentality. In my next talk, that's what we'll look into, so don't forget to tune in. On that note, like and subscribe to the podcast and share it with anyone who you think this will help. As always, it has been a great pleasure having you all listening. Remember, life is good and it gets better when you focus on the good things in your life. So focus on the good things in your life. Enjoy your week, everyone, and don't forget, think better to upgrade your life.